amazing people. God really answers prayers. But many times we have been met with his silence. Many times God is silent. Many times we have prayed, we have called upon God, we have cried out to him. We have screamed out aloud. We have been in pain. We have yearned for God to speak to us, but we are only met with silence from God. You have been there. I have been there. If you haven't been there and you're a Christian, you will be there one day. Where you pray, you earnestly seek God, you earnestly look for God, you earnestly cry out to God, you earnestly yearn for God, you cry out to him, you call on him, you fasted, you've prayed, but you are met with silence. It seems as if God is not speaking anymore. It's a very difficult moment. It's a very excruciating moment. It's a very painful moment when you call upon God and it seems as if he's no more there. It seems as if he doesn't answer. But let me tell you something, God answers prayer. God's silence does not mean absence. When you've tried everything, when you've exhausted all the means, when you have fasted, when you have prayed, when you have screamed out louder, when you have been awake in the midnight, crying out to him, and all you get is silence, I want to tell you, God is there in the midst of the problem. God is there with you. His silence doesn't mean that he's not there. Silence from God doesn't mean absence. Silence from God doesn't mean absence. He is always there in the midst of the storm. What about Job? Let's consider the story of Job. Job was inflicted with a lot of pain. Everything he had was taken away from him in a day, in an instant. To top it all up, he was struck with leprosy. He was in pain. He cried out unto the Lord. He called out unto the Lord, but he was met with silence. Yet, Job persevered. Yet, Job kept on calling out to God. Job was a very good friend of God. He was a believer. He was a righteous man. Yet, he was met with God's silence. God didn't speak to him in that period. Job felt like, okay, everything is over, yet he didn't give up, yet he didn't throw in the towel. Job stayed on his toes. He stayed crying out to God. He stayed believing God. He didn't speak any word to condemn his God. He stayed put. Job saw it all. Job saw all the pain. Job saw the poverty. He lost all his children. He lost all his property. He lost everything. Yet he stayed and said, I will wait upon the Lord. I want to encourage somebody today. Have you cried out to the Lord and you have met his silence? Does it seem as if you're praying and you're not receiving answers? Does it look to you these days that you have fasted, you have prayed, you have gone to the mountains to stay there alone to seek the face of God, and you are not finding him? Have you thrown in the towel? Have you told yourself there is no God? Have you decided to drop your faith? Have you decided that I'm not going to serve God anymore? I don't want to have anything to do with God because God does not answer prayer. I want to encourage you and tell you this morning, this afternoon, this night, based on where you're watching me from, that God answers prayers. Let me give you a scenario. When you're in an examination room and you're writing a very important exam, does the lecturer, does the examiner talk to you? Does the examiner communicate with you? Does the examiner tell you what to write and what not to write? No. That is the same thing with God. You are passing a period of trial. You are passing a period of pain. You are passing a period of sorrow. You are passing your examination period. So as you're writing the exam, realize, listen to me, realize that God is with you in that exam, but he will not talk to you. He wants you to write that exam very well. He wants you to concentrate and write your exam. He wants you to concentrate and write well and give him 100%. He will not talk to you until you finish writing. He won't still talk to you after you finish writing. He will talk to you after he has marked your papers. He will talk to you after he has graded you. He will return back to you and give you your examination paper and tell you, child, and tell you, son, this is your score. You scored 100%. You scored 80%. You scored 75%. you scored 60, you scored 50. So beloved in Christ, I want to encourage you this morning. Don't put your mind on the fact that you're meeting the silence of God. Put your mind on the fact that you have to keep pushing. Put your mind on the fact that in this exam, in this trial and temptation, I have to pass. When my God grades me, when my master grades me and marks my exam, how many percent am I going to get? That is what you should be interested in right now. Do not focus on the master's silence. Be focused on when he finishes examining you. Be focused on when he finishes grading you. Be focused on the mark you're going to get. And I pray you don't get 10%. I pray you don't get a 20. I pray you don't get a 9. I pray you don't get a 15. I pray you score 50 and above. Do not be scared. Do not be worried. Do not say God does not answer prayer. Let me tell you, God answers prayer. If only you can have patience with him and write your exam quietly and follow his will, follow his lead. And God is going to take you to a place of rest and joy.